Hello, my book besties. It's Dano, and today I am doing my TBR for the Romantasy Bingo created by Covers with Cassidy. And I'm going to have a couple of little recommendations that I've found that also work for these prompts. But I'm not going to lie, it was hard. So I am attempting to do hard mode for these. And with that, I'm also trying to keep it within like series that I've started, which, look, hasn't really happened for a lot of it, but where I can, I have. So some of them might be a little bit of a stretch just because book one definitely hits hard mode. So I'm just going with the fact that book two does as well, even though sometimes they're already together and things like that. But I'm doing it. It's just, yeah, I need to read some sequels. So, and the problem I have with doing a lot of these bingos and everything is I seem to be starting more and more series rather than continuing on with them. So that's my goal. I'm going to aim to complete them, or at least catch up or like read the next one in a series for these. Okay, let's get into the prompts. So first up is a book that was published the year that you are reading it. And for hard mode, it has to be a debut author. For this, I'm going to be reading A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I've heard a lot of things about this book. I have a copy of this book. I've got a really pretty edition of this book, and I need to read it. And this is going to force me to read it by December because otherwise it doesn't count for this prompt. So yes, I will be doing that. Some other suggestions for this prompt for 2025 are Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie, as well as Behooved by M. Stevenson, Mistress of Bones by Maria Z. Medina, What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller. So they're just ones for 2025. I'm sure there'll be plenty for 2026. I just haven't gone that much on a deep dive for it. Moving on to Hidden Identity, and for hard mode, you had to pick a book that it wasn't royalty that they were hiding. So for this, I'm going to be reading Rebel Witch, which is the second book in the Crimson Moth series by Kristen Cicerelli. I have read, obviously, book one, The Crimson Moth, or Heartless Hunter in the US, and I really enjoyed it. So I just need to finish this duology. And obviously, she's hiding the fact that she's a witch, and loving that. Some other recommendations I have would be The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen hits easy mode. Is it Defy the Night by Bridget Kimura? I don't know if that hits hard mode. It might, but it hits easy mode at least. And then Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lynn. Up next, we have Take Down the System, and the hard mode for this is Dystopian. I have such a hard time finding things that would fit this, just because it's really hard to find a book marked as Take Down the System. But anyway, for this, I'm going to be reading The Bone Season. I've just recently read The Pale Dreamer and really enjoyed that. So that's the prequel novella. And now I'm excited to jump into The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Some other recommendations for this is To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast, or Empire of Flames and Thorns. Up next, we have BIPOC author, and for hard mode, it's a book with flowers on the cover. For this, I'm going to be reading This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Murphy. I have been meaning to read this book so badly, and I know it's on other TBRs. I know I've got it listed down as on other challenges. So I need to read it. So let's put it on another one, and hopefully I'll get there. Again, this is one I was struggling with just because I don't really track my authors that way. But I feel like the more and more challenges I do, I kind of really need to. Just so that when it comes up as a prompt, I know who identifies as BIPOC, because also I do appreciate that there is some nuances around who identifies as BIPOC or not. So, yeah, I don't want to be miscategorizing anyone, but at the same time, it can be difficult. So I always try and err on this side of caution, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, up next we have a book in first person, and for hard mode it is a new to me author. For this I'm going to be reading Captive of Wolves by Eva Chase. I am looking forward to this, and it has been like circling around, so I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's some of these first person, it's hard to know until you're reading the book, unless someone's tagged it properly like that. The next prompt is there was so much explanation to this. A book title that is something of something. And the hard mode for this is it's not Fae. So I'm going to be reading Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And some other ideas of this is Dance of Thieves, Empire of Sand, Kingdom of Tomorrow, Captive of Wolves. So they're just some ideas for you. Clearly you could tell that some of these I had an easier time finding books than others, because some of them I have recommendations for and others I don't. Or some of them there was just so many and it was just so individualized of who it's for. Like this next one. So this next one is a book that was originally indie published and is now being traditionally published, and the hard mode for this is it's a sequel, which love that in a challenge because we need more in a like that are sequels or finishing to force me to finish. But for this I'm going to be reading Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I really enjoyed Spark of the Everflame, and I've heard the books get better from there, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But there's so many that have gone down this track. Quicksilver, City of Gods and Monsters, Direbound, House of Bane and Blood, Serpent and Wings of Night. Like, there's just so many that have been indie released and then traditionally published. So, by the way, I just mentioned the first book in each of those. Obviously, you'd read the second for the sequel for hard mode. Okay, up next we are finding a book with rep, and the hard mode is Own Voices. For this, I'm going to be reading Legend Bound by Tracy Dion. Another one I found is Jasad Air by Sarah Hashem. I think that's how you spell her surname or pronounce her surname. There was definitely a lot of books that have rep in them. I couldn't tell if they were own voices or not, and I didn't want to be deep diving too much on people. Yeah, I'm sure there's there are, I don't know if plenty is the right word, but I'm sure there are some. I just didn't do a deep dive into finding more. Up next, we have Start a Series, which, yeah, that's my problem with a lot of these TBRs, but that's okay. And up next, and for hard mode, you have to read a book where the author writes in multiple genres. This one was actually pretty hard to find, but managed. So I'm going to be reading On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. So this is a pen name of Fenna Edgewood, who writes more romance books. I think that's what they are. Yeah, they're historical romance. So I'm counting that because even though it's not under the same name, it is still the same person who writes in separate genres. And I love the idea of authors that do this, that use a pen name for when they're branching out into different genres. Like, unless the genres like really cross over and you sort of want to intertwine, I kind of like the idea of having it separate and you sort of know what you're getting when you read from that author. Like, I think there are a few that do that, and I really do like it. But some other ideas are Devney Perry, Rebecca Yaros, Layla Sage. So they could all be some good ones. But I'm very excited to read this. I've heard some great things about this book. The next prompt is urban setting, and for the hard mode, it is a secondary world to ours. So for this, I'm going to be reading City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards, and I'm so looking forward to this. I cannot wait. I think this book is going to be right up my alley, and I have loved hearing what others have said about it, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Up next is Ghost and Ghouls, and for hard mode, the love interest has to be a ghost or a ghoulie. For this, I'm going to be reading Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. I really loved Phantasma and cannot wait to continue on with Enchantra. Up next, we have Voice Inside Your Head, and for hard mode, it's Not an Animal Companion. For this, I'm going to be reading Brimstone by Kelly Hart. It is the sequel to Quicksilver, and if you don't know anything about that book, the Quicksilver is what talks to her. I am looking forward to continuing on with this. It does come out in a couple of days, really. Or it might already be out by the time I get around to posting this. I hope I enjoy it. Another idea is Caught in Mist of Fury is another idea for this. But I found this one hard, but not being an animal companion, because, I mean, in like Direbound and even Fourth Wing, it's other dragons and other animals outside of their own, because it's their person, like it's the mate is able to talk to them. I'm like, I don't know how far I'm stretching that, but if you want to stretch it that far, go right ahead. Up next is Friend Wreck, and for hard mode, it is a book from Cassidy's channel, so I thought it was only appropriate to go with House of Bane and Blood by Alexis L. Menard. There hasn't been a book that she has screamed more about this year from what I've seen than this book, so I am going to read it. Okay. I need to read it. Up next is a Book Talk hyped book. That is a lot. And for the hard mode, it is still indie at the time of publishing. This was hard. So hard, because a lot of the Book Talk hyped books are all getting traditionally pubbed because they're getting hyped so much. Like, that's the great thing about them getting hyped, is then they're getting traditionally published. One that definitely isn't getting traditionally published because they are publishing it themselves are the Twisted Sisters and their books. So I will be reading whatever book I'm up to in the Zodiac universe. At the moment, it's Savage Fae, but I don't know if I'll put that one in there. I might put one of the next ones in there, or I might wait till I'm back into the main Zodiac world. But yes, for now, just for the graphic, I'll put in Savage Fae. I will be reading that in November, so technically I'll be marking it off. I should just use that. Next prompt is a forbidden romance, and the hard mode for this was Not Enemies to Lovers. Another really hard one, because so many books are marked as enemies to lovers, even though they're not technically enemies to lovers. They're a forbidden romance, or they're rivals to lovers, or they're, some other form. They're not actually enemies. Or they're enemies for all of 2 seconds, which, sorry, it doesn't really count. But yeah, so I found this one really hard, and I was given this as a suggestion. So I'm going to go with Savage Blooms by S.T. Gibson. From what it's telling me, it's not enemies to lovers, it's forbidden romance. I'm hoping that is true. So I'm hoping as I'm reading it, I don't have to switch it out. But also, I really loved A Dowry of Blood, which was the only other S.T. Gibson book I've read so far, and I definitely want to continue reading because I absolutely love the writing in that. Up next, we have Trials, and for this, it needs to be an academic setting. For this, I have chosen Immortal Consequences by I.V. Marie. I've heard so much about this book and cannot wait to get my hands on it and get into reading it. So many people have just been loving it, but yes, it looks so good. Some other ones are things like, obviously, Fourth Wing, Direbound, highly recommend. If you have not read Direbound, you really should. Arcana Academy, absolutely loved that. I'm sure there's plenty of others. There seems to be like a really big boom of academic trial books this year, which is great because I love that trope. Next prompt is a 2+ love interest, and for hard mode, it's not a love triangle. So I'm taking that over not like everyone loving each other, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what definitions of not love triangle it is. But for this, I'm going to be reading Savage Bonds, which is the second book in Jay Bree's Broken Bonds series. I don't know if that's actually what it's called. But yes, I enjoyed the first book. It was a book club book, so I want to continue on and keep going with the series. The next prompt is single point of view, and for hard mode, it's a book published more than 5 years ago. For this, I'm going to be reading The Wicked King by Holly Black. I have just recently finished The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, obviously, so the first book in the series, and I want to continue on, so this is going to help me do that. Next prompt, we have court setting, and for hard mode, it's an animal on the cover. For this, I'm going to be reading The Wolf King by Lauren Pelfrayman. I'm so sorry. I probably butchered that. I have seen this book everywhere. It is a new release and people seem to be enjoying it. So I want to see what all the hype is about. And, you know, who doesn't love a Wolf King? Another idea for this is Feathers So Vicious by Liv Zander. That's got a raven on the cover, I think. Next, we have a main character is transported to somewhere new, and for hard mode, it is a retelling or reimagining. For this, I'm going to be reading A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling? Yeah, Turn into a Vicious Beast. So it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I have been meaning to read this book for such a long time. Such a long time. And I'm now going to get to it. The next prompt is Reluctant Allies to Lovers, and for hard mode, it's A Marriage of Convenience. Again, this prompt is so hard because so many books are categorized as enemies to lovers, where really it's reluctant allies to lovers. They're not enemies, they're just reluctantly having to work together. So struggle down with this one, and for this I'm going to be reading Bride by Ellie Hazelwood, partly because it's all that I could find for books that I wasn't already using. So I don't have any other suggestions. Sorry, I'm scrapped with all my suggestions now. Then we have a one-word title, and for hard mode, it is a gothic book. For this, I'm going to be reading Eldritch by Kerry Lake. I was meant to read this book this month. Haven't gone to it, so I'm going to be reading it in November. Obviously, Anathema would also work for this. Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of others out there that are gothic, but I really want to read Eldritch, so that's what I'm picking. The next prompt is Shifter Romance, and for the hard mode, it is not wolves doing the shifting. And I'm going to be picking up Feathers So Vicious by Liv Zander. This is... They shift into birds. I think they're ravens. That might be another type of bird. I'm not too sure. But that's what I'm going to go with. Cassidy did say that she'd accept Zodiac Academy because there's multiple different types of shifters in that, not just wolves. So that's accepted. And yeah, highly recommend. If you haven't read Zodiac Academy, read Zodiac Academy. Then we've got Weapon on the cover, and the hard mode is Powerless main character. For this, I'm going to be reading Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is book 2 in the Powerless trilogy, and it's what I'm up to. So I'm going to keep reading it because I want to read it. I need to get through my series. And then our last and final prompt is part of a chunky 4+ series, and hard mode is the world or series is an interconnected sort of series with another, or a part of a larger universe, like the Cosmere and things like that. So I'm going to be reading Vows and Ruin by Helen Schurer. This series ties into... Is this series called The Legends of Thesma? Or does it tie into The Legends of Thesma? Now I'm confused. So this series is called Legends of Thesma, and it ties into the Ashes of Thesma series. So it's all interconnected. So I'll be reading book number 2 in this series because I loved book number 1. And then some other ideas for this is obviously Lady of Darkness works, Zodiac Academy works, Courtless Cruel and Lovely works for this. So there are a few out there. Some of them you just got to be mindful of which series you're reading. So like especially for this one, Vows of Ruin work because that series, The Legends of Thesma, is a 4-book series, whereas the Ashes of Thesma isn't. So you just got to be mindful of which one you read. But anyway, those are my plans for the Romantasy Bingo. Hopefully I get to it. So it's running from the 1st of November to the 31st of October. So I'm very excited that there's now a Romantasy Bingo running out there. So I've got Romantasy, I've got my fantasy. Need to find like a contemporary romance. That's what I need to do. All right. That is it for me today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions for any of these prompts, please leave them down below. I would love to get more suggestions of what fits in different prompts because, as I said, it's really hard to know some of these without reading the book. So if you've read some that fit, please leave them down below. I'm also trying to sort of work on my book tracking spreadsheet to have some of these prompts listed in them so that when I want to do recommendation videos, I haven't marked off if they count or not. So yeah, please let me know if you've got any other suggestions and hit the subscribe button if you want it, and I will see you all next time. Bye.